This presentation in the Database Fundamentals series looks at how to define a relationship, how to define the minimum and maximum cardinality in a data model. This presentation assumes that you've already seen previous presentations that explain the terms that you see here. So if you are not familiar with these terms, you should look at the earlier presentations. To define a relationship, you have to determine what is the minimum and what is the maximum cardinality for one entity in its relationship to another entity. So you ask two questions from each end of the relationship. In the example below, you need to define the minimum and maximum cardinality of customer in its relationship to order. You also need to define the relationship of order to customer and set the minimum and maximum cardinality. So let's walk through how you do this. In defining the customer's relationship to order, the first question for any one customer, just pick one as an example, make something up. Sylvia Sanchez, for example, what is the minimum number of orders allowed? And the minimum number of orders allowed in this case we'll say is 0. That means that we may have data about Sylvia Sanchez as a customer before we ever actually have an order from her. So we can have a customer Sylvia Sanchez and not have any orders for her. The second question for maximum cardinality, for any one customer, Sylvia Sanchez for example, what is the maximum number of orders allowed? And that would be many. We hope she'll place many orders with us. There's no upper limit. Occasionally there is an upper limit, even though you define the maximum cardinality as many, and you can notate that. A good example would be something like students enrolled in a class. You know, how many enrollees can you have in a class? You can have many, but the cap might be 30 because of the classroom size. So many doesn't always mean an unknown number of instances. Now we need to complete the definition of the relationship by asking the questions from the order side. What's order in relationship to customer? For any one order, order number 2573 for example, just make up some example. What is the minimum number of customers allowed? Well, the minimum is 1. You can't have an order without having a customer placing that order. The second question, maximum cardinality. For any one order, order number 2573 for example, what is the maximum number of customers allowed? And for that one order, the maximum number is 1. An order can be for one and only one customer. So how do you read the relationship? Given this example shown here, how do you interpret the relationship? You should be able to now that you have learned how to define a relationship. Any one department, such as marketing, can have a minimum of 0 employees. That's shown here. Any one department, such as marketing, can have a maximum of many employees. That's the crow's feet here. From the other side, any one employee, such as Jack Jenkins, can have a minimum of 1 department, can be assigned to a minimum of 1 department. And that's this vertical line here, the one furthest from the department entity. Any one employee, such as Jack Jenkins, can have a maximum of 1 department. So this employee can only be assigned to 1 department. Just as an aside, what this data model shows is that we are not tracking we're not tracking employee data and its history with departments. So you might have somebody that is working in one department and then gets transferred and moves to a different department. This data model would not track that information. It would only show where that employee is assigned, what department they are assigned to at that point in time. So what you've seen in this presentation is how you can ask questions, two questions from each side of the relationship, and use those questions to set the minimum and maximum cardinality.